and welcome to chapter 28 of 1 Samuel. Let's get right into it, no time wasting. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel. And Achish said unto David, Know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men. Bless David. So the previous chapter, David had been going behind the scenes to pretend to be working with the Philistines, but he was secretly killing all their villages, and Achish didn't know. So now they're like going to war again, and he's like, come on, David. Little does he know. And David said to Achish, Surely thou shalt know what thy servant can do. And Achish said to David, Therefore will I make thee keeper of mine head forever. Yeah, wow, he's got a high position too. So here, make thee keeper of mine head. So that's his personal bodyguard. Like, he's gone right up to the top very quickly. So David was made the king's personal bodyguard. Wow. So now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him, and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Paul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. So these people, familiar spirits, wizards, all those who are in the occult, so ones worshipping false gods, he'd banish them and put them far away from everyone else. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem, and Paul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not. I'm not surprised. Doesn't really talk to him any other time, does he? It's only when he needs something, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Then said Saul unto his servants, Seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, Behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. So I have thoughts about this, which I will expand on in a minute. So for the first time here, Saul was really scared. He was afraid. Now, that's because it wasn't for him. It wasn't just a physical problem. It wasn't just a military problem. He was spiritually lacking here. So he was afraid, not just militarily. I don't think that's a word, but I know what I mean, so it's fine. Not militarily, really, but spiritually. He was, and then he tried to reach out to God. Like, where have you been all this time? You haven't really repented, so why would God answer you? You're not seeking him, you are just using him. Our God is not a genie. So then what does he do? Goes to pretty much a genie. You know, and this is a common thing, and that's why people turn to mediums, trying to speak to the dead. That's why they turn to things like manifestation. They're trying to make things happen of their own accord, because they don't have that relationship with God. And when you have that relationship with the Father, you know it's alright, he's got it in his hands. And you don't feel the need to necessarily go out and try and make things happen on your own if you're really leaning on him. And this is happening more and more now, more publicly. Like, you see McDonald's putting out tarot cards. Are you kidding me? So this is an abomination to the Lord, using the occult in general, outside spirits to try and make things happen, or even talk to them in general, is an abomination to him. Because you're communicating with demons. Why do you want to get help from demons? Work on strengthening your relationship with God. So I can see this not ending well. Let's read on and see what happens. Okay. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits, and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life, to cause me to die? So she was worried he was trying to entrap her, because even Saul knew that they shouldn't be around. And Saul sware to her by the Lord. Seriously, Saul? Seriously, the audacity. The audacity! To swear to the... Oh, goodness. To swear by the Lord, no less. Saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall be no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Oy. Then said the woman, who shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. So he wanted to bring Samuel back from the dead. Because we know Samuel had passed at this point. So he wants to talk to Samuel, a dead prophet. Which we know you can't do. There is no going to mediums. Ugh. I'm just writing contacting medium here. Okay. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me, for thou art Saul? So he'd obviously disguised himself earlier, so she didn't know she was talking to the king. And the king said unto her, be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. So even she got freaked out when she saw the prophet there. Go to the end of this page. And Samuel said to Saul, why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me, and answereth me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I shall do. O Saul. Then said Samuel, wherefore then dost thou ask of me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee, and is become thine enemy? Yeah. You go after his kids, and he's not going to be happy. And the Lord hath done to him as he spake by me, for the Lord hath rent the kingdom out of thine hand, and given it to thy neighbour, even to David. Because thou obeyest not the voice of the Lord, nor excusest his fierce wrath upon Amalek, therefore hath the Lord done this thing unto thee this day. So because he didn't kill Amalek as he was instructed to do, this is what we were talking about yesterday, when we were questioning, why is he killing these nations? Because if you don't do that, something worse will happen later. Therefore hath the Lord done this thing unto thee this day. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow shalt thou and thy sons be with me. Oh, that doesn't sound good, does it? Be with me? Well, he's dead, so we know what that means. Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into the hand of the Philistines. Oh no, they're going to lose the war now. Saul. Okay, so I have a question here, and I will double check with my commentary as well. So, do we think that she actually saw Samuel? Because what I've been led to understand is by mediums is that you are not communicating with the dead, because the dead are asleep. They're not coming back here to talk to us. Who is coming back are demons in disguise of your past loved ones, for example. So, did she really see Samuel? My commentary says this is a big dispute. People have debated back and forth of whether it really was him or was the medium tricking Saul. We don't know. Or was God using otherwise forbidden means to convey his verdict on Saul? Because what Samuel said does come to pass. Interesting. So we could assume that he allowed in this occasion for his will, or we don't know. It's something to mull over. I mean, let me know. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. It's a question mark for me. I know we shouldn't do it though, so that's really all that matters. Should not be trying to communicate with the dead. But it is interesting. God uses things in ways to fulfill his will. So Yeah, so anyway, Saul asked for a look into the future, and it is not bright. So, hope that was worth it, Saul. Okay, right. Should make some notes. I'm talking a lot and not actually writing what I'm thinking. Okay, so let's make a note of what that is. So perhaps God allowed Samuel to return to give this message, and I put a question mark because that's something I'm not sure about. And like I said, it doesn't matter ultimately because we know we shouldn't do it. What else did I want to say? So the Lord has become his enemy. Because Saul had clearly disobeyed the Lord's instructions. And he'd taken the throne as well of him. And his fate tomorrow would not be good. So God was no longer with him. Okay, let's finish off this chapter then and see how it goes down. Then Saul fell straight away all along on the earth, and was sore afraid because of the words of Samuel, and there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no bread all the day, nor all the night. And the woman came unto Saul, and saw that he was sore troubled, and said unto him, Behold, thine handmaid hath obeyed thy voice, and I have put my life in my hand, and have hearkened unto thy words which thou speakest unto me. Now therefore I pray thee, hearken thou also unto the voice of thine handmaid, and let me set a morsel of bread before thee, and eat, that thou mayest have strength when thou goest on thy way. But he refused, and said, I will not eat. But his servants together with the woman compelled him, and he hearkened unto their voice. So he arose from the earth, and sat upon the bed. And the woman had a fat calf in the house, and she hasted and killed it, and took flour and kneaded it, and did bake unleavened bread thereof. And she brought it before Saul, and before his servants, and they did eat. Then they rose up and went away that night. So his reaction was literally passed out. He just literally fell, collapsed. Saul collapsed in a dramatic moment of fainting on the ground, and he was afraid as well. And he hadn't eaten. And even the medium felt sorry for him. Imagine, like, he's the king, and she's looking down at him on the floor as a wreck right now. What must she be thinking? And she managed to get him to eat, at least. Medium managed. Which I presume might have been his last meal. At least she made him a good one from scratch. She didn't just give him some scraps. She made him a nice meal. Interesting. That was quite a good chapter. So when you're distant from God and you try and go through other means, it's not looking very good. So we know what's going to happen to Saul now, and we are close to the end of this book. So tune in tomorrow, we'll hit up chapter 29. It is a little one. And then we'll see what happens. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. And also, let me know your take on this part with the medium. Did Samuel really come back? And if so, why and how, if we are told that the dead are asleep? Let me know. That's something I'm still curious about, how this whole thing works. That's why I'm reading The Unseen Realm, learning a bit more about that part of the the realms, because I know we've got this human realm that we're living in, but there is also an unseen realm with the spirits all around us as well. So I'm really curious about how all that stuff works. So if you've got any insight on that section, let me know. I'd love to hear about it, and I'm always open-minded to learn and take in other people's opinions too. Okay, that's all for now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye!